G'day everybody, welcome back to Sprouts Tarot. So today's reading is going to be, what does your soul want to say to you? If it could speak to you directly. Okay, so we all know that our lives, it's basically an epic journey. So it doesn't matter what form it takes. It's going to be a very, very special time for us to be here on planet Earth in this particular embodiment, enjoying or experiencing what we have experienced. So these three cards fell out during the shuffle. So clearly your soul energy is connected to this particular message that it wants to tell you. Just click on the pile that speaks to you the most, and hopefully we are going to get either some good advice, words of encouragement and kindness for what you have experienced so far. And maybe you will see your life differently, or maybe this reading will act as a confirmation that you are in fact on the correct path. Okay, see you in a little while. Welcome back, group one. So if you pick this card, tackle adversity head on, this is what your soul wants to say to you. So these cards are from the Rossouli decks, and his artwork is just absolutely incredible. Like, it gives you this kind of, it is kind of woo-woo out there, but it's so beautifully done. So the colors are all kind of like an, like ombre sort of formation, right? So you can see that there's gradation, and it gives you the feeling that you're in this psychedelic dream. Okay, so this message, so can you see this lovely card? So here is you walking down this road that seems as though it's got a lot of challenges because the elements are not comfortable. Okay, so the message here is tackle adversity head on. A path with no bend is boring. So this message is from the great guru, Swami Vivekananda. And it's basically asking the soul to understand, or the soul wants you to understand, that obstacles or challenges that are placed in your life are done for you to exercise a certain creative element. And I know sometimes we don't really feel that when we are actually in the midst of the actual problem. But if you think about it, limitations actually encourage the brain to utilize the optional or alternative function. So sometimes the more restrictions that we put on ourselves, the more creative we can be. So the clearest example in our contemporary, especially politically driven time, is the sanctions that are put on China in terms of its technological development by the US. And for the longest time, the US has placed the world into kind of three tiers. So the first tier countries are the G7s, basically, which allow technology exchange of the highest level. And then China was put on, I think, tier 3. And so that's where you get the chip wars, the semiconductors all happening. However, through that, China has been able to develop DeepSeek for a fraction of the cost. And it's just as effective, if not better, than OpenAI, which has spent hundreds of billions of dollars, ostensibly. So that's what this means. Every time that there's a limitation put on, the human mind naturally tries to find a way around it. And so your soul is asking you to understand this part of your life journey so far. Now, what is underlying this as part of your hero's journey in the context of your life? It's the end phase, where basically you're bringing home the elixir. So the card that you got here from the Hero's Journey deck, once again, Rossouli's artwork is just phenomenal. A splendid torch. blaze brightly. So as you can see, this character, she has absorbed all the light and then the shades of orange and vermilion that accompany with it. So the gradations of like passion, but the center here is almost like a pure white color, which is basically the original source energy. And that gets transferred into passion or life itself. So this card actually talks about the need to share your experience or knowledge, the wisdom that you gain from successfully tackling this problem, the creative approach that you've been able to use in order to work yourself out of it. Okay, so that's what that's the anchor of this reading. Now specifically, let's use tarot to see what your soul wants to tell you, one kind of like more meatier message. Okay, so this is the background that your soul wants you to understand, that the adversities or the challenges in your life are done for a particular reason, for you to exercise your creativity, not just in like areas of art, but creativity for life itself. Okay, and also now you are in a stage when you can bring this message and start teaching others, either, you know, people who you personally know in your life, or something that you can share out via social media on a wider platform. Okay, so dear soul of group 1, what would you like to say to group 1? What direct message do you have? Or is there anything that you want to tell group 1 about their particular life experience that will give them a new way of understanding themselves? Or do you have any kind words? Okay. Any guidance or kind words or reflections on group 1's life thus far? Okay. But how many cards can we fit here? Oh, we can even fit one more. Excellent. Okay. Oh, beautiful. Okay. Oh, nice, nice. And the bottom? Wonderful. Okay, what your soul wants to tell you is that it always trusted you to find a way to ensure your own survival, and not only survive, but the fact that you will thrive. And every time that you have had an idea or an inspiration, you have been able to have the passion and the conviction to at least give it a try with the best of intentions to take it through all the way to the finishing mark. And things have not necessarily been easy, because some of these projects in which you've engaged in life have been quite, challenging, strenuous at times, because maybe the people who you felt you should be able to trust or should have your back maybe didn't fulfill your expectation from them. However, you didn't succumb to taking the shortcut or the easy way, which means that you believe ultimately the game of life is fair in the end. So most of the times you have had to carry the burden by yourself. And for example, every time something has broken or fractured in your life, you have always trusted that time will heal all wounds. And so you've put your faith in life, and you could only do that because fundamentally you are a person who's very compassionate. And deep down inside you, you know that in your world at least, love does conquer all. At least you believe from your part anyway. Your heart is big enough to accommodate all the grievances that others have maybe inadvertently or overtly inflicted upon you. Finally, in the end, you've been able to exercise the generosity, the magnanimity to forgive them, because you understand ultimately it means forgiving yourself. And because you've been able to do that, you have been always, finally, in the end, you've gotten the prize that you've really wanted, but sometimes it doesn't come in the way that you expect. So, for example, if you maybe in the beginning, this is just an example, maybe you wanted to make X amount of money, but as you engaged in this particular project, you found out that the money aspect wasn't as important as the fact that maybe the book that you wrote or the poems that you shared actually brought smiles to children's faces, for example. And that gave you the biggest satisfaction, and hence the numerical value of the profit diminished in its importance, and the ability to share joy increased. And hence, in the end, you always got your prize. And that's why your judgment or your view in life that love conquers all has been quite a consistent mantra in your life, because you've always been rewarded finally, even if there were some challenges in the way, in your actual journey to reach a particular path. You've either successfully reached the goal, or you've always got the alternative prize, which was just as good as reaching the goal. And now, so your soul is telling you the next chapter in your life is going to be a new move. Either you are going to actually change locations, or you are going to set up something new. And now the passion in you is reigniting again, because you have a message now. You have a message that you really do want to share with others. And hence, this is why this page with the Three of Wands has occurred. So it looks as though it's the beginning of something that you want to share. And it looks like you are prepared to make some sort of move in your life in order to do it. So whether that means changing jobs or changing places of abode, or maybe working with new companies, new clients, etc., it seems as though your soul is telling you this passion that is starting within you is starting for a very good purpose, and that's because you need to spread your message. So right now you will have to find a way to make some things in your life balance, because there is a period of readjustment. However, what you want to do, what you have to share, is definitely valid. Okay, so now because we've got a Page of Swords here, let's see what this Page of Swords has to tell you. Okay, so let's get a message from the Page of Swords. Okay, dear Page, not Page of Swords, Page of Wands. Dear Page of Wands, what does Group 1 need to know? What soul message does Group 1 need to know? What soul message does Group 1 need to know? Oh, here we go. Cutting ties. You may need to leave your current position and look for something better. Ending a job doesn't mean burning bridges. Go with grace. What did I just say? before here. Okay, so your soul is definitely telling you that whatever it is that you are feeling right now, because this is, can you see this fire burning in her heart realm, right? It is a passion project. It is something that you believe in. It is something that you have a very keen direction on how to grow this. Look, your hand is already there. Okay, so you're holding on to something, this staff, which is like the staff of Moses, basically the guiding rod to move you towards something which is greater than yourself. So your soul is telling you that right now, the next mission that you have is going to be an important one in your life. And the past that you have had to, what was in the past was in your past for a very good reason, which is to get you to this point where you can now begin to author your own story and then relay that out to the world as a source of inspiration for others. Oh, I just got the chills there. That's beautiful. Okay, so your soul has a very important and encouraging message for you. Thank you as always for allowing me to read for you, and I thank you and I thank your soul for imparting this message. All the best. Bye. Oh, welcome back, group 2. So if you picked this card, Roses Have Thorns, this is what your soul wants to say to you. Okay, so this card has a quote by Rumi, or it carries Rumi's sentiments, the famous Persian poet. Roses have thorns. Pain can be an awakening call. And if you take a look at this card, she's now kind of wrapped up in a whirlwind of emotions, but she is walking into a place of tranquility and peace, because the central point where source energy is always the purest form of light. So this card is basically a reminder that when something is as beautiful as a rose, it has to carry some thorns to protect itself in its own unique evolutionary way. So we all come into this world pretty much with the best of intentions, at least to fulfill our dharma, which is basically our life objective. And some of us do end up indeed getting hurt along the way. And so the roses here point more to an emotional pain that is caused by, which is the effect of actually falling in love. Falling in love with another person, falling in love with animal companions. When we have these attachments, when they leave, it can feel as though there's a void in our hearts because of the impact that they've made on us. So this particular message is to tell you that despite all the pain, the fundamental reason why you have pain is because you had love in the first place. And underlying this in your life journey is one final step. So the hero's journey, if you imagine it as a 12-step program, this would be in chapter 11, the resurrection. Okay, so here, the message is, be reborn daily. Let go of the past and breathe in your new incarnation. So once again, a beautiful message, beautiful card. So what your soul is trying to tell you, that every day is a new day, and you have the option to hang on to something that will weigh you down, or you can do the best you can to write on a brand new page and create the first sentence in a new chapter of your life. So that is something that you have the ability to do. Okay, so that's what I've got now here. by these two cards. Now, let's get a concrete story so we can get a more full soul message. Okay, so now what I'm going to ask is your soul to reveal your life story so far and to talk to you, if your soul could verbalize or articulate itself, and what advice, compassionate words or kindness it wants you to know, or what your soul would like to say to you. Okay, so let's see what the story is. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, similar to energy, there is some similarities to group 1. Okay. And let's see what's at the bottom. Oh, it's very similar. Okay. 2 of Swords right at the bottom. Okay. So, you've got a lot of 2s going on. So there is a great need to balance, to achieve harmony in your mind, and to achieve harmony through what you desire, the passion, and also to balance the material aspect of life in order to make these things happen. Okay. So what your soul wants to say to you is that your life, a big part of it, is pursuing something which is like material victory. This is where a lot of your passion lies. It lies in, for example, getting good grades maybe when you were a child, making a particular cut in the, getting into a particular sports team that brings you validation, and in adulthood, possibly getting career or monetary success or power. You need something that is very tangible, measurable, to make yourself feel this particular worth that you are seeking inside your mind. But what that really means is a longing for a part of you to come back to yourself that will complete you. And traditionally, or for quite some time, you believed that is achieving something on a piece of paper that you can check off. But now there is a change of mindset. There is a yearning, and hence there's a churning of your heart and mind combination, where now if your heart could speak and your mind could speak, they would have that dialogue of who takes primacy here, who is more important. So for quite some time now, the mind and its logic has been quite dominant in your life, and now the heart is demanding to be seen. It is demanding its space in your life. And what you are now doing is you are trying to convince your mind that your heart space has legitimacy. It has a right to be seen, to be heard, to be grown, mature. And this is the thing with shadow. Sometimes if we bury it too much, the shadow aspect of ourselves remains like a child, whereas the other facets of our psyche become quite mature. So right now what you are aiming for is your heart center to take on the same level of response and maturity as the logical function, which is what you've always prided yourself on, an external achievement. But now you're beginning to realize that that external achievement is actually to fulfill this longing that you have, which is self-completion. Because this Lover's card, it of course can manifest as a desire for another person, but more important than that, it is a combination of two seemingly opposite things melded into one. So what is going to happen now is destiny or providence is going to give you some time to think. And during that time, when you are thinking, you are going to have a different perspective in the way that you see reality. And that difference in perspective is probably going to be diametrically opposed, the opposite to how you currently view reality and the world. So in order to harmonize these two components, basically your heart versus your mind, you will need this time alone in order for version 1 of yourself to understand that its cycle or its role to be the main character has already reached completion, and now it is the heart center that must be cast as the main lead in your life. So your soul is telling you, choose to be reborn, choose to be that person which is the second version of the first, and understand that this second version is born from the first. So in the end, these two are the same. However, in different times of your life, one will take a more important or a bigger role in your life. And right now you are heading towards the more heart-centered development in your life. And your soul is telling you that, yes, love can hurt. And yes, every time you invest yourself so much in something, and especially something as kind of fragile and whimsical really, as love, that you can't control, like you can control, for example, your job progress, where you can openly apply for a promotion. In terms of love, it is dependent on this point of magic that makes it more elusive. However, you need to trust that this is also part of your life experience and that you do deserve this. So this is why when you have time to release this material aspect of yourself and engage with the more emotional love aspect or quadrant in your life, your soul wants you to enjoy this process and not rush it, because this transition, the transition itself is going to be beautiful. And when you can transition fully and properly from one domain or dominant character into the other, that prior dominant character does not cease to exist. That character grows in maturity into the finer version of itself in order to allow this other version to also prop up. So it's not only you transitioning, but it's your characteristic that is also dying to meet another facet of your being. And your soul wants you to know both mind and heart are equally as important, and you are going to be able to live your life with these two major aspects of your life being in perfect harmony and balance. So your soul wants to say, trust in the process, trust in destiny and life providence, and trust in yourself, because this balance is going to come. Okay, so that's what I have. That's the soul message that I have for you. As always, thank you very much for allowing me to read for you. And I hope that your heart compartment really comes up and gives you a different perspective in life. And I hope you find that special quality, that certain X factor, je ne sais quoi, that we are all longing for, the magic in life. Okay, thank you. See you again. Welcome back, group 3. So if you pick this card, Release the Creative Genius, this is your soul's message to you. So first of all, let's take a look at this beautiful card. It says, unload the weight and fly to the sky. Beautiful picture. Now, this particular card, I really do want to read from the book, because this message from Isaac Cook is just too wonderful to not, to not actually read. Okay, so I'm just going to read the blurb here and then a little bit of the beginning. There are free men with the spirit of a slave, and slaves whose spirit is full of freedom. He who is true to his inner self is a free man, while he whose entire life is merely a stage for what is good and beautiful in the eyes of others is a slave. Okay, now this is the expression written by the actual author of this book. Pick a pen or several colored pencils and a blank sheet of paper and draw a scene that you have in your mind with your eyes closed. If you open your eyes, you cannot continue to draw. When you feel your drawing is done, open your eyes and see what has appeared on your paper. The image will not be quite the same as what you pictured in your mind, but what you see is what you have created. Isn't that magnificent? Okay, that for me really hits a point. Okay, now in your hero's journey in your life, this creative genius aspect is hitting the stage where after you've reached the goal and now you are turning around and taking the path back home. So here it says the magic zone, the exhilaration of discombobulation. So this is where you need to now integrate that new version of yourself into your daily life, where the ecstasy of having reached a particular point in your journey where you feel as though you've made it or you've succeeded. And now from that high, you need to walk back down and start thinking, what are you going to do with having reached that goal? And especially if this is like of a spiritual nature and you do get some sort of insight into life, how are you going to integrate that? It's just like that famous Tao saying where before enlightenment, man cuts tree, chops wood, makes tea, makes lunch or whatever, and then after enlightenment he does exactly the same. So that's what this is now. Maybe integrating something, your lesson, into your ordinary life again, and being okay with that, knowing that what has been done has been the achievement, but you don't have to stay at that peak all the time, because the peak, the apex, is actually a dangerous position anyway. Okay, so now let's see what message your soul actually wants to say to you, especially in relation to your actual life story. Okay, so this is really excellent. So the image in your mind's eye versus what you've actually created. That's profound. Okay, dear soul of group 3, what would you like to say to group 3? Messages of kindness or advice? Okay, let's see. Oh, I cannot believe it. three groups got the King of Pentacles. Oh. It's a very material. Okay, this group is all about the money. Oh my goodness. Like, you saw me, and it's been shuffled actually a lot before I actually prepared this reading. It's already been shuffled like crazy. And then I shuffled it once again on camera, and take a look at this. It's just bizarre. Okay, but you're exchanging that energy. Oh, you are exchanging the money energy. Yes, you are. Okay. What's at the bottom? Oh, you are changing. You are changing from the King of Pentacles to the King of Wands. Okay, now since we've got 8 of Wands here and a page, we are going to need messages galore. Okay, so first of all, the page. Dear Page of Cups, what would you like to say to group 3? Okay, what would you like to say to group 3? Dear Page of Cups, what would you like to say to group 3? No. What would you like to say to group 3? Renewal. You need to take time to recharge your energy to get back on track. Challenges ahead require you to have faith and break through. Beautiful. Because look, she's holding a key. So usually this bow and arrow thing, she's holding the key, which means she's destined to get this one right. She's destined to hit the bullseye. And also it is in her heart. So this key will unlock this. Okay, now let's get something from Masashi. 8 of Wands. What's coming up in the 8 of Wands? Okay, 8 of Wands. There's definitely a change in the way that you see reality. Okay, what message do we have? What news is coming? What news is coming? Okay. Oh, I love this message. I love this one. Masashi said, speed is not part of the true way of strategy. Speed implies that things seem fast or slow according to whether or not they are in rhythm. Whatever the way, the master of strategy does not appear fast. So now, in everyday language, it means be quick but don't hurry. Be patient, set realistic goals, focus on the things you can control, such as your own effort. Avoid delays, forget maybes, move on from your mistakes, follow your instincts and don't hesitate. All this advice, which has great application to all phases of everyday life, is summed up in UCLA basketball coach John Wooden's catchphrase in practice, be quick but don't hurry. And that's why you need to take time out to recharge. Okay, so what does your soul want to say to you? Your soul wants to say, good on ya for achieving what you have so far, because you have scaled one of the highest metaphorical mountains in your life, and you have the achievements to show that you have indeed succeeded. So people around you can see it, you can feel it by yourself. However, this way of living is already understood. Like, your soul wants to tell you it already understands the highest point of what this can do for you. How much you can grow from material abundance is already tapped out. So now, if you continue to hold on this position that you've painted for yourself, so take a look at this beautiful picture that you've painted. You yourself seem to be anonymous in this beautiful landscape. And if you continue to hold on to this mindset, you will continue to be the anonymous element in a beautiful landscape. So that has to end. That mindset has to end. Why? Because it will begin to feel heavy. For the biggest time, or for the longest time in your life, that kind of responsibility of being right at the top was wonderful, because it formed an evolutionary soul growing mechanism. That phase was definitely needed in your life. However, now you have to make a reassessment. It is time to reassess your life and its values, because things are beginning to feel heavy. And this is why you need to take time out to recharge your energy. If you don't, you will not get a new inspiration. However, if you do recharge, your mind will become fertile once again. And this time, what your mind will grow, what inspiration you will get from this particular phase, is definitely a new way of being, especially in developing a passion project of some sort. But this process does not need to be rushed, because if you want to achieve this level of kind of symbiosis or balance in your mind, where you don't feel as though you're forfeiting past efforts in order to embrace this new way of being. And this new way of being is definitely has a more spiritual leaning kind of outlook, or it has one that transcends the material. So you are leaning towards a change that is kind of more an inner thing rather than an outward appearance thing, at least initially. So this is why you need to be quick to understand that you do need a change, but you don't have to rush the process, because your soul understands now things are beginning to feel a little bit difficult. That enthusiasm, the chutzpah that you used to have, and the joy, the ecstasy that you used to face the world with, it's beginning to feel, heavy. And before it reaches that point where you do feel exhausted, your soul is asking you basically to take a preemptive measure and start looking at life in a slightly different way. And part of that is getting some sort of sign or symbol, and you will be getting that. Your soul is telling you a message of some sort is going to come through to you, in which maybe through the guidance of books or through social media, like I always say, podcasts, anything that you hear, it's going to direct you into a new way of being. So a message is going to come forth for you. This is what your soul is now organizing. The person that you are going to become is this person here. So as you can see, this growth of new life comes from the heart center. It's not only from what people traditionally measure success in, it's going to really come from the heart this time. Not necessarily what society deems to be great or good or acceptable, but it is something that you yourself believe is necessary for you to evolve. So your soul is basically patting you on the back for what you've already achieved so far in your life. And your soul is very, very happy. And what it needs you to do now is, before that material mindset really takes hold of you and starts pulling you down, and avarice comes into play and becomes a dominant character, your soul is asking you to, because you have the means, to shift your focus into something that is based on the beauty of life. So as you can see from here, the fertility of the new mindset is based on growth and beauty and harmony, because bees, they work so hard in order to give the world honey. And it's a byproduct of building something for themselves that they eventually can share with the world. And so this is what your next phase is as well. The things that you've already built in part 1 of your life now will be used to actually make the world a better place. And this doesn't have to be our whole world. It can just be in your community, or even within your family group, or in your friendship group. But what you have done in part 1 is now going to basically cross-pollinate and then give rise to something else, which is bigger than your original intention in phase 1 of your life. Okay. Thank you as always for allowing me to read for you, and I'm very happy that you've been very successful, and I hope that you're going to be very successful too in this second chapter of your life, in which you too can become a woo-woo guru. Okay, thank you. Hope to see you again. Bye.